Sara Ramirez. Did I say it?
Wow, that
Because I
was
know. Listen. I tried to, because I know the Anglo-Saxon Saxon pronunciation is Sarah Ramirez, but I think I got it right. It's Sara Ramirez. Did I get that correct?
you really rolled that R, and you also I want to point out that you also got the R in the middle of my first name correct as well, which is not a rolled R. It sounds more like a D, and you got it. You just nailed it. Thank you.
Thank, I appreciate that. Thank you. I try to do my best here.
That's so good to be with you right now.
Let me tell you, so much is going on in the world. And, as people who have been in the entertainment, field for pretty much most of our lives, what is the balance for you like when, we need the healing aspects of things like comedy and art, but also making sure you're still feeling things and engaged?
Well, I think the most important thing I can do as an artist is stay engaged with the systems that oppress us. In other words, not isolating to the point where I'm disconnected from the real world. Now, I do live
Well,
with
that sounds
many.
like that sounds pretty
I,
bold.
well, I will say that I do live with plenty of privileges, both that I've been born with and earned, and so I think that that also is a part of the conversation too, right? I am extremely privileged, and I also am somebody who wants to experience the world and walk alongside my community, my friends, my co-conspirators, my colleagues, and not everybody's in the same place, So
I think one of the things you're saying with not everybody being in the same place, you said a keyword when you said earned privilege. Okay, so for you, how did you process that transition?
well, I didn't for a very long time because of survival mechanisms.
Mm-hmm.
Even though I was born into class privilege, and even though I was born into privilege through dual citizenship, right, which means I was able to be sent to the United States on a plane with assistance as a minor traveling alone, right? There were privileges involved in this sort of huge upset in my life. And that came with discrimination as well. People kind of conflating xenophobia and racism. Like, oh, you were born in
Mm-hmm.
Mexico, so that means that you are in this category that I'm now going to discriminate against because that means that you're not white, which is actually really incorrect. There are plenty of white people
Right.
in Mexico with plenty of privilege, right?
Right.
And
Right.
so and so I have family who is that. There are brown folks in my family, there are white folks in my family who are Mexican, who are mixed, etc. And so that's what I talk about that's what I mean when I say I was born with privileges. And then sort of winding up in San Diego, California, where my mom was born, hence the dual citizenship. Then I was sort of kind of in survival mode because I had not only accumulated childhood trauma from before I was sent to the US, but I was also experiencing the trauma from divorce, the
Mm-hmm.
trauma of culture shock, living in a new country, and then experiencing a ton of discrimination growing up just because of people's miseducation and projections and assumptions about me. So really, as an immigrant, it became all about fitting in. It
Ah.
became about survival by fitting in, by conforming.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
my mother joined me sometime later in San Diego, and my mother is white. She is Mexican Irish and very much white. And so there's a lot of privilege that comes with that. But really, my point is when your mother is who they are, you want to aspire to your parents a lot of the time. And so there was also that kind of pressure, right, to be like your mom, even though no one necessarily looked at me as a child and thought we were related. So growing up, there was a lot of stuffing down of trauma, of feelings. It was all about survival and sort of taking advantage of anything to succeed,
Mm.
quote unquote, because we're also conditioned in this country to pursue a kind of quote unquote success. What does
Yeah.
that look like? What does that smell like? What does that feel like? Right. So there's all kinds of socialization and conditioning that I was experiencing as
Wow.
well, being a queer, bi, non binary person who didn't know that that they were queer and bi yet.
It's interesting because the reason why I wanted to really like kind of line that out is because this podcast, it's very much in a common sense tone. But I come from my Buddhist perspective, and I want to sort of like share the way that Buddhism has helped me see the world and see other people. And one of the things, there's so many wonderful things that I learned from it, but one of the things that they say is become a celebrity of the mystic law. And what our mystic law basically boils down to is just really saying that no matter who you are, what package you came in, that you can demonstrate through your life force a type of enlightenment, or a type of like just having success with your life, just having purpose and having certain things. But when it says become a celebrity of that fact or that law, it really comes down to being just another example of, with this layer and this many layers and with this kind of situation, of how you found yourself, how you found your value, and how you learn to express that fragrance that comes along with the flower that you are. So going through a lot of that, the challenges and things that you've gone through, and then how did you meet the expression of creativity to start sort of like, because I know you sing, I know you do a lot of things. So how did sort of you find the space as someone who's been through things and challenges to still sing or to still create?
Well, it hasn't been easy, and in some ways it has, because again, with all the privilege I was born into, I was able to go to performing arts school from fourth grade through 12th grade. I was surrounded by arts. My mother was a singer. Her father was a singer. I was born with the ability to sing, and through the accumulation of trauma, I was able to develop empathy. And that is a huge part of what I do as an actor, as a performer, is have empathy for the characters I play. But the
Mm-hmm.
arts, at a young age, the arts became a place to escape into. It became a place to hide myself, because I was so ashamed of who I was. From where I was born to the pronunciation of my name, the list went on and on and on, the shape of my body, et cetera, et cetera. So the
Mm-hmm.
arts was actually a place to hide, to remove myself actually from the equation, to make it a little easier. And through the arts, I was able to express through these characters. So it became a respite, it became therapy, it became a place to express. And it also became a place that unfortunately also kind of tricks you into thinking that there's all this love in the audience when there's applause,
Oh,
right? You think, oh, I'm doing a
yeah.
great job. This must mean something about my value. And as you get older,
Mm-hmm.
you very quickly learn that it has nothing to do with your
Mm-hmm.
actual, your internal value as just a human being. So there's been a lot of detangling that I've had to do therapy, which was another thing that was
Yay to
offered through
therapy.
college.
We love
Yay to
therapy.
therapy.
Yes.
Not for everybody, not for everybody, but it works for me. And I
Mm-hmm.
had access to it through college. So again, somebody was paying for that technically, but it was offered through the
Yes.
college. So that's where I started. That was, 30 years ago. And I've been in therapy ever since. Now, singing has been a kind of therapy for me. And in school, they had auditions in seventh grade for the school musical, which was unusual because they never really allowed anybody who was younger than, let's say, ninth grade to audition. And so I went in and auditioned. I thought, oh, this is going to be incredible. And I prepared a Jingle Bell Rock. And I'll never forget going in and singing Jingle Bell Rock, forgetting all the lyrics. I crashed and burned. There was one particular gentleman who was in charge of the musical theater department at that time, and he just excused me and said, thank you so much. I left. I was devastated. I went home and I told my mother, I'm never going to do this again. This is awful. I suck, et cetera, et cetera. I waited a couple of years. I came back, I think it was at the end of ninth grade, to audition for a different show. And I went in, it was a different person that was the head of the department at that time, Ole Kittleson. And I went in, I auditioned, and I sang Wind Beneath My Wings. And I will never
Oh.
forget the look on his face when I finished. He said, where have you been? Who are
Oh.
you? Where did you come from? And it was like he saw something in me that no one else had really seen or articulated. And I felt so seen in that moment. He took me by the hand and he walked me to every arts department and told every head of each department that I would be in their top level class the next year in 10th grade. And I just thought, well, wow, this is quite the fast track. What an amazing, invitation, opportunity,
Yeah.
etc. And so 10th grade, I was suddenly in these top level classes with, all of the the juniors and seniors side eyeing me, which is totally valid, by the way. Like, where did you come from? Why are you here?
Right.
Ole Kittleson changed the trajectory of my life by supporting me as a performer, and singing became something that I could escape into, that I could express through. And so I think singing actually has become something that is such a deep, deep, important part of my life that I can access pretty much at any time, anywhere. I'm able to sing for the
Yes.
joy of it. I'm able to sing for
Yes.
the healing of it. It also can connect me to community. I get to express myself, my rage, my sadness, my joy, my truth. And right now, as we mentioned earlier, there's, and always has been, I suppose, so much injustice in the world. So sometimes music and singing is another way for me to say what I need to say.
If you trust in your soul, keep your eyes on the goal. Then the prize you won't fail. That's your grail. That's your grail. Ceasefire now.
Are you fully embracing all of your expressions as an artist as you move forward?
I think the most important thing is strategizing to reclaim myself throughout the process of pretending to be other people.
Ooh.
Reclaiming myself is so important throughout, and sometimes I have not practiced that strategy, and in the past it caused me a lot of sort of emotional injury, because the brain has a hard time distinguishing between what are pretend emotions and what are real emotions. To the brain, it's all the same. Which is why television and film are so powerful, because we release hormones whenever we watch somebody else experience an emotion. Our brain clocks it as though we are experiencing the
Well,
emotion.
that's
So
when
it's
you're an actor that is as open and available as you are with the work. That doesn't just. I mean, that's great that it would be great that everybody has that experience, but that's also to bring that kind of emotion that you bring to the table is because you're really allowing yourself to be excavated by this character and using your full everything that you've got.
I think that, thank you, by the way. I think that, like I'd mentioned before, and this may not be the same for other performers and actors, but for me, I know myself very well, and I know that the accumulation of trauma from childhood on has gifted me empathy. And it is that empathy that allows me to feel, that allows me to have compassion, that allows me to stay connected to those feelings. And even though sometimes many of us wish those feelings wouldn't get in the way, those feelings are telling us what's up. Those feelings are there to alert us to what's going on. And so I think having that access to those feelings has been a gift. And then also on the flip side, it's been as important to strategize to reclaim myself, because Sada may not be in the same emotional place as the characters I play. So it's
Right.
important for me to get back to where I am in real life when I am
Right.
done playing those characters. That's been integral. Now, like we had mentioned, the context of this conversation is that we're in the middle of a SAG-AFTRA strike, a pandemic, an escalation on attacks against human rights, including trans rights, reproductive rights, ongoing oppression and genocide throughout the world, the climate crisis humbling us to no end. And so I would ask you the same question, Angelica. What has kept you connected to your humanity? How do you offer yourself grace? And why do you think you're able to go so deep with the characters and the work that you've been doing?
I appreciate you asking that question back at me. Listen, likewise, like I feel Yes, I've gone through so many things in my life that have given me the ability to have empathy and compassion and to feel. And so everything that I do just is dripped with so much heart, for sure. But I recently, as in the headlines and all the things or whatever, like kind of like stepped away from, or, lit a match and walked away from Hollywood, just saying like, listen, I just don't like when people get me twisted. That's all. It really is a situation where I'm nice, I'm friendly. We can, even when I'm teaching, like I don't come in swinging. You know what I'm saying? Like I really don't. So if you got me, listen, if you got me to the point where I am publicly dragging, lighting matches, curse, like at a certain place, you best believe that I have taken the time. I've taken the time to process it all. When I finally said something, it was years later, because not that many years, but obviously just years later, because working with a team, you're working with a team of people who, everybody wants to keep the lights on and keep everything moving, And I've always had a certain kind of conversation with my team and just like, hey, y'all know that I'm not going to say always the popular thing. So, I'm going to make my money. We're going to make money, but it might not be as great as it might be over there with somebody who's willing to just kind of go along to get along and do whatever. And so everybody understands that. And I have gotten hired to sit at tables with AT&T or Chase or, all these different companies or what have you. And it's always with the caveat that, listen, y'all know I'm going to always be real. And so when I have these partnerships with folks, most of the times they welcome, me being authentic and real, especially because they know that it's not coming from a destructive place, unless something needs to be dismantled. But I have had to center my spiritual practice. Like right behind me is my little thing where I chant to or whatnot. But like really center myself, because everything I know is about how I respond. And what I know is that we have to, as individuals and collectively, take responsibility for our environments, for our communities, and the things that we bear witness to, and we think should change. And when I've learned from my practice about taking responsibility, it's been about having the ability to respond, or having the ability to have a response. And we are in a time and a culture where most people are either they don't know how to respond, they're scared to respond because of some very sometimes obvious consequences when you speak up. And I just recognize that we're in a time where somehow some folks think that my best use is scripted. Listen, I'm an artist. You understand what I'm saying? I'm an artist. And so I want to do the things that I enjoy, like that. I want to create and do those things. But my power and my voice and my purpose is truly aligned in the fact that over 43 years now, I have been practicing my response to life. I've been practicing. That's why when I talk to certain people, they say, "Ooh, Angelica, you did, baby. I've been having I ain't just start speaking up. This ain't my first time at the rodeo dealing with very complicated conversations." And so I know that part of that process is going to be very icky for me, meaning like people are going to see me as all kind of things that don't align with the way I see myself. They're going to speak all kind of words about my character that I know don't align with the way that I, again, see myself. So how I really have been able to really balance this all is by prioritizing my authenticity and my ability to respond, my responsibility. And that has now evolved into me stepping into taking office. That's not what I want to be doing. It ain't the dream for me. It ain't. Now maybe the dream might include the Oval Office. I don't know.
All right, all right.
But what I'm saying is that's that's the dream. Listen, I'm a leader, and I want to be a leader in our, whatever, and whatever that position that may be. But when stuff happens, as as somebody who has done improv as well, You can't just act like that thing didn't just happen. You understand what I'm saying? So it's like we are in this game of life, and it's all about those who respond the best in the on their feet, and with certain things that end up being put into either positions of leadership or in pulling the narrative together or what have you. So it's really about all of us. And I'm just trying to take now ownership over my responsibility, my part.
Right. And so many different people have very different lived experiences, and some people only know how to be reactive. They don't even know the concept of responding, which I can relate to. I've been there. But, thank you for sharing, Angelica. You touched on Hollywood a little bit. And so I'm just going to jump back to that for a sec.
Please
There's a
do.
reason. There's a reason Hollywood is called the Golden Handcuffs.
Oh, I'd never heard that one.
And as we know, there are a handful of people with the most power in that system. So it's going to come with oppression. That's the system of Hollywood. We know this. And what does the response look like to an oppressive system when we choose to engage with capitalism through the entertainment industry? It's like we better be ready to confront those systems. And for many of us, depending on where we are in our lives, whatever age we are, there does come a point in time where we're done. We're done playing along. And it sounds like because of your integrity that you've always brought to the table, you are now going to redirect and pivot that integrity in a different direction for a different, for the purpose of supporting our communities, So I'm really proud of you for taking a stance, for speaking your truth, for instead of, enabling the powers that be, which many of us find ourselves in that position. So, it happens. And you are a shining example of what it looks like to be able to step out of that and say, I'm not doing it anymore. And in fact, I'm going to go ahead and speak truth to power. And then I'm going to redirect my energy over here as a response, as a reclamation of yourself and your power, and I really, really appreciate that. I'm excited for what the future holds with you. So where are you're going to move back to, is it Georgia?
Georgia. Yeah. Decatur, Georgia is where I own my home. I'm in the 42nd district of Georgia. So just to give, folks a shout out there. But it was one of those things where because of genocide happening and people feeling unable to speak up against genocide, baby, you not free. I don't know what life you think you live in, but you have obviously, I say we, because I do understand collectively, we are not free. But let me tell you what I am doing. I am not allowing folks to basically piss on me and call it rain. Let me just kind of like call it out and just say, like, listen, folks, they're literally, stuff is happening right in front of your eyes. And then they're telling you, you don't see what you see. You don't hear what you hear. That ain't really what's going on. And what I'm saying is, I don't know what simulation we got put into. I want out. I went out because and this is how I know that I'm here to free a lot of people, because I myself had to free myself first. India.Arie talks about this when they talk about writing their songs, and even though it seems like a searing commentary on some other person when it's get it together and all these different things, she's saying, I'm writing these songs about myself first. What I'm saying here is I had to learn my value first as a hoe.
Right.
Because as a technically defined hoe, in the sense of, because the thing is, I say technically defined because I had to learn that I live in a world of prostitutes, that prostitution is a archetype, and Carolyn Miz talks about this, and understanding that people don't understand that there's a price, and as long as somebody, whether it's their job, the husband, or the client, or whoever, as long as they paying their price, we good. I don't need to say nothing. We don't even need to discuss politics, baby. Cast a check. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I have had to put myself in a place where I've had to learn my values, so that it was some days chicken, some days feathers, meaning some days I was eating good, and some days it was slim pickings, and understanding how to survive through those situations, so that the threat of someone saying, I'll wait till you starve. Bitch, you don't know me when I'm hungry. You don't know what I do when I'm hungry. So go ahead and try to starve me out. like with this, the strike and the things that are going on. They think that they hold the keys to our life. My whole reason for walking away was the fact that I'll be damned if somebody thinks that they can look at my life as an on and off switch. Today you work, tomorrow you don't. Today you work, tomorrow you don't. I don't think so. So I had to, and I've always been in a place where I come from a place of negative bank account balances, terrible credit scores, no official degree, all of these sort of markers and digits and numbers that are supposed to somehow add up to the valuation of my life. And I had to learn, even though my credit score was in the toilet, I had to learn, even though my bank account was negative, I had to learn that I still had value. So the way I walk away from stuff, the way I enter rooms is so different, because there's nothing you can offer me that is going to be more valuable than what I hold within myself. You can't trick me out of it. You can't trick me out of it. And
Yes.
that's what I'm trying to get everyone else to recognize for themselves. Ain't nothing like enjoying yourself. The joy in yourself, as Eckhart Tolle would talk about it. Nothing like being able to carry that around. But what I know is this: when you enter a room, when I enter a room, we are but reflections. Our lives are a reflection of the environments that we're in. And there are people that when they're in our presence feel sick to their stomach, feel angry, confused, scared. But the reality is, all the vitriol, all of the hate, all of the whatever that comes out of folks, when I walk into a space, it's coming out of them. It's not, it's not, it wasn't in my luggage. That wasn't in my itinerary. None of that was in my bag. Do you understand? So when I come up here and they experience that, all I'm doing is reflecting their life state, what they see, what they feel, and do you know, because I know you know, when we are around community and they say they see themselves in you, all that projection. Oh, Sara, you're so great. You're just so talented. You're like strong. You're courage. You don't care about this. You don't care what people say. We all have our moments. We all have our times where none of us are, a bulletproof wall. But that strength that you have, that I see in you, is because it's in me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that for me, grace is really appreciated when I'm rushing, or when I'm reacting, or when I'm not my best self and I don't want to admit it, or I'm having feelings that are very difficult to feel that I need to take responsibility for. Grace comes in and says, it's all right. It's not, you don't have to have it together all the time either. So home is that respite to be able to leave everything outside the door, and come home to myself, literally and figuratively, to be able to sift through all of that and be able to somehow get back to the truth, or get back to my natural state, which is one where my shoulders are not up to my ears, one where I'm breathing into my tummy, one where I am making friends with my anger instead of denying how angry and enraged I am about the things that are going on in the world, and along with the respite of home. And if we are blessed enough to have a home, there are many people out there who are living without a home, who are houseless. There's housing injustice out there, and displacement is awful. And so when I think of home, I think
Oh my
okay.
God.
Let me not start.
I heard that.
The Wiz is coming to Broadway, back to Broadway.
Yes.
But when I think of home, I don't just think about a physical space that I walk into. I also think about what's in my heart. I think about my connection to spirituality. I think of, just this body that I am moving in. And so I think of home as a place that is wherever I am. And sometimes home is in spaces where I am feeling affirmed, where I am with like-minded people, spaces that are affirming. I have an invitation to sing next Monday as part of a opening night for a festival being produced by an organization called Breaking the Binary, which is very exciting. And this is an invitation to really do anything that we want as artists, those of us that have been invited. And it's an interdisciplinary kind of space. And so we are able to kind of come up with, whatever we want and be really creative. For me, I wanted to go back to singing. I wanted to reconnect to
Yes.
singing. I have not
Yes.
really sung publicly much, and there happens to be a fantastic community of musicians that formed a band called Las Mariquitas. And why I bring this up is because their work is so connected to liberation. It's
Mm-hmm.
not just about entertainment and loving to dance. I do love entertainment. I love to go dancing. All of my closest people know that. But they offer a space to reclaim your internal freedom, the pursuit of liberation, creating spaces that are for liberation, places that are pro-Black, that are pro-trans. This is a queer and trans non-binary salsa band. And so I have
Yes.
been so
Wow.
inspired. I've been so inspired by this group, and I have so much respect and so much gratitude for them, for their existence and the work they do, that I decided to ask. I dared to ask, would it be okay to sing a song together? There's a song that they've played that I've heard at their venues, because I mean at their concerts, that I've been so in love with, and so I asked, can we duet on this song? And they agreed. And so next
Yes.
Monday, I'm going to get to sing with them as my offering for this opening night, and so what I wanted to share about that is that, this isn't just an opportunity. To me, it's an invitation. It's an
Mm-hmm.
invitation to heal in
Mm-hmm.
community. And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes
Mm-hmm.
and sometimes that feels like home too.